Thanks for joining us today. I'm Cody Holyoke. We are watching a mad dash in Topeka as Kansas lawmakers enter the final stretch of the legislative session. Time was already tight this year with a March 27th end date for the regular session, and leaders have a laundry list of items they want to make law. Some of the priorities checked off campaign promises for Republicans who own a supermajority in the House and Senate. They overrode a veto on a high-profile bill restricting bathroom use for trans people in Kansas. The new law also invalidates some birth certificates and driver's licenses, and it set up a court battle that we are watching closely. A Kansas sports authority seems well assured to handle the Chiefs' move to Kansas. Property tax reform is still a major want for lawmakers. Several ideas have been floated around, but politicians in the House and Senate have been at odds over what reform looks like, especially as state funding dwindles. And then there's the state budget, which is the only thing the legislature has to pass. It's still being worked on. Republican House Speaker Dan Hawkins has said he wants to cut $200 million from the budget and told me he thinks that could happen and then some.
I think we'll be in excess of 200 million when we finish and have the final budget. But, it's always a process of you got to get the votes to pass the budget. So, if you trim things that people don't like, all of a sudden it gets pretty tight.
That includes higher ed cuts and trimming social services budgets, though Speaker Hawkins claims lawmakers aren't cutting services for Kansans. Democrats call this session fast and furious, telling me the major issues on affordability still haven't been addressed.
Some of the issues that Kansans really care about have not been the topics of discussion. So I think we will probably end the session with a lot of things that Kansans wanted us to deal with that are going to have to wait until next January.
Senate Minority Leader Dinah Sykes did say she's watching the property tax issue closely and is hopeful special education funding will make its way into the budget. Stay tuned. Let's get to the heart of the matter with our roundtable of journalists. Please welcome back KMBC 9 political reporter Michael Mahoney and Pilar Pedraza, senior political reporter for Cake News. All right, let's start with this property tax issue. This was one of the marquee priorities, but we really haven't seen the House and Senate working well together on this at all. And this is not the first time, Pilar. What's going on?
No, this has very much been indicative of what we've seen from the Masterson and Hawkins era, where they're just not able to get together on the same page on a lot of the different tax issues. They have very different attitudes within their bodies toward what should be done. And especially in the House, a lot more difficult to kind of wrangle a single attitude toward a single issue. The other problem, though, is that anything the legislature does can really just kind of nitpick around the edges of property taxes. The majority of the property tax issue is actually a city-county issue. So if they were to truly change a lot of things with property taxes, they would basically bankrupt most cities and counties.
Yeah, that's a good point. One of the things that House Speaker Dan Hawkins has talked about is he wants some really meaningful property tax reform, something that gets to at the root of the problem, and that's a big problem, and it's very complex. And as Pilar just mentioned, a lot of the property tax and a lot of the elements that go into it are local issues. I'll give you an example: the special education tax that the state's supposed to spend 90% on, 92%. Well, they're not even close to it. It's in the 60s. The local districts have to make that up. Well, that goes into the property tax. So there's a lot of complex elements to this.
It's an election year, right?
And that's another thing.
So what's the sell to voters, Mahoney, if tax reform doesn't cross the finish line?
Well, it is one of the things that Senator Masterson has been trying to make a key point in his campaign. Without that, they're trying to do tax cuts, but they have from the get-go said we believe that Kansans want property tax relief, and it's been the main focus for the Republicans and their majority.
Right. Well, budget cuts are never popular, and as you just talked about, we just heard from the speaker who says that he thinks well more than $200 million could be squeezed out of the budget. Pilar, what are you hearing?
Well, I'm not really hearing a whole lot of chatter amongst lawmakers about it. They're kind of staying mum on this issue, probably because it is an election year and they don't want to have a bunch of different attitudes out there. But I do know just from watching it that I'm seeing a lot of looking at education. Where can we cut things, especially higher education, stuff like that, which makes sense since that's like 60% of the Kansas budget is education. There's a good chance that we'll see some line item vetoes from the governor on that because they won't pass her litmus test.
Yeah, good point. Veto session next month. Mahoney, the governor is no stranger to those line item vetoes.
No, she's done it throughout her 2 terms in office. I expect her to do it again. I also expect a pretty intense push during the veto session, which is limited to a certain amount of days, for the Republicans in the House and the Senate to try to do something to get some sort of property tax relief over the line. Whether or not they do it, I don't know. As Senator Sykes said, she thinks they won't get it done and it'll be back next year for another session. But they won't have the sort of the election hanging over their head. So
Right, and that matters
that may
a lot.
be a good or bad thing. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Pilar, real quick, any other bills catching your eye right now?
There are several that I know the groups locally here are watching. There's one that just passed out of the Senate a day or so ago, and hopefully next week we'll get into the actual debate section over on the House. But it is involving renters' rights, kind of increasing those a little bit, allowing them to use the Consumer Protection Act when land or rental property has been condemned by a government agency. So that would be a little bit of a change there. That comes out of a situation actually in your viewing area out of Gardner there. Another one that we're seeing push for here involves actually a bill that has already passed the Senate, has been sitting in the House waiting for debate for a year. It would provide a rebate for filmmakers, up to 30% to help kind of spur the filmmaking industry, which has been growing, but they're saying they're at a competitive disadvantage to other states that already have these rebates in place.
All right, we'll continue to watch that. Pilar Pedraza, Michael Mahoney, thank you so much. Count on KMBC 9 News as we watch this last week of the session in Topeka and what it means for you. Bring you updates on air and online at KMBC.com.